Have you ever met the postcard lady? You can. Stay tuned to Carolina People, coming up next. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Myrtle Beach Herald. We're focused on the Grand Strand, images of America. And we're visiting with Susan Hoffer McMillan, the local author. Good morning. Actually, it's Myrtle Beach in the Grand Strand.
That's
Forgive
right.
me. Since it's not out yet and it's very soon to be out, I get excited, kind of jump ahead. Very exciting to get you in.
Well, thank you, Greg. I'm excited about being here and about the upcoming publication of my book.
And we're thinking this is number 3.
Right, it is.
And probably you've even done more than that. But number 3 that I've been thinking about, is Arcadia done all of them?
Yes, they have. They do image books all over the country, and they're just a wonderful publisher to work with. I've been very pleased.
I think you mentioned before we started, they're the largest publisher of image books nationwide, and they're based in the Palmetto State.
That's correct, in Mount Pleasant, which is very convenient.
That sure helps you. That's right. Yeah.
It does. I've enjoyed having a personal relationship with the staff people there.
And the other 2 publications you said were both done by Arcadia. Were they based in Mount Pleasant then also?
Well, in Charleston.
Okay.
They moved out of town, but yes, in the same area.
That's amazing. That's
Right.
amazing. How did you first come in contact with them?
Actually, Arcadia contacted me. I had a rather large postcard collection of the Myrtle Beach area, and they wanted a book done on Myrtle Beach. So they asked if I would do it, and I happen to have a journalism background.
Yeah.
So it just worked out to be a good match.
That does. That does. Real quick about yourself, for viewers who may not have seen you on some other TV shows or promoting the other 2 books, primarily focused on Horry and Georgetown County, are you originally from the area?
Not exactly. I grew up in Camden, South Carolina, but my parents always owned rental property at the beach all of my life, and so I've been coming to the beach since I was a small child. And when I graduated from college, I knew exactly where I wanted to live, and a week later I moved to Myrtle Beach.
Oh, come on.
Right, I did.
Based off of those childhood trips?
And just a fondness for the beach itself, and it didn't hurt that I had a romantic interest in the area, who is now my husband of 33 years.
Congratulations.
So, thank you.
Y'all were married in 71?
72.
Or, excuse me, right, soon thereafter. Yeah, that's exciting. I think of
Yeah.
33 since I don't want to tell you, I was born in 71, so I think that's right. I always think that's exciting.
Well, thank you.
That's very exciting. Of course, you said before we started the interview that you used to head to Durham a lot. And so when you talk about fond memories of something and finding a place, you never thought about moving to Durham, did you?
No, I just always was interested in the beach.
You knew the Myrtle Beach area would be a special place.
Well, it is. It certainly is.
When did you first start collecting postcards, Susan?
I was a small child, probably 10 or 11 years old, and my family liked to travel a lot, and postcards were a very affordable souvenir on my meager little weekly allowance. So I began buying them on our trips and then decided to expand a little, and so I collected postcards that my family received in the mail. I just garnered all of them and kept adding to my collection. And then when I moved here, I got interested in early Myrtle Beach postcards through an aunt of my husband's who had died and left us some of her memorabilia, and it included some early Myrtle Beach postcards. So that sort of ignited my focus on the Myrtle Beach area and the Grand Strand as far as collecting.
What's the oldest postcard you've got from Myrtle Beach? You know, you've probably got quite a few early vintage postcards.
I do. The oldest ones are of the hotel that was built in 1901, the Seaside Inn, which was the first hotel in Myrtle Beach. So I would guess that they are 1902, 3, or 4, probably along in there.
Now, are there other cities, coastal towns up and down in North and South Carolina that may have had some of the similar, early hotels that have postcards from their communities, or was Myrtle Beach one of the early promoters of postcards?
On the Grand Strand, I think my earliest cards would be Myrtle Beach, but I do have early cards of all of the beaches along the Strand, and even further than that. I sort of tend to focus on coastal South Carolina postcards.
Right. So you'd have some from Charleston, some of the areas around Charleston, some of the Little Island,
Mount
Hilton
Pleasant
Head.
and Isle of Palms.
Isle of Palms, yeah.
Hilton Head is fairly new.
Yeah, I was thinking it must be
commercially
pretty new.
speaking. So postcards kind of follow commercial development. So earlier towns had earlier postcard images.
You know, so many high school students who are now down for Beach Week think about postcards. Of course, those postcards aren't the ones you'd probably put in a book of the, men or women, some of the fun stuff. And that's oftentimes what some of the newer postcards are thought of Myrtle in a different way. But the postcards you're talking about are truly an amazing reflection of the community, the entire community.
Well, they are a wonderful documentation of the way things were. And over time, as you well know, Myrtle Beach has changed drastically. And it's only through these early images that we really have a record of what went before.
Even more powerful, Susan, is possibly flipping the cards over.
Yeah.
Seeing some of the writings on the back from the early 1900s, early part of the 20th century, to see how times have changed in that regard.
It is fun. I always read the cards, and sometimes the messages are humorous and informative. But by and large, people say the same things that they say on postcards today. Wish you were here. Yeah. We're having a great time. The weather's wonderful. A lot of messages like that.
Right. I can't imagine, some of those aspects of getting a postcard and, for instance, someone having passed away. And remembering experiences that they wanted you to be a part of with them. And, of course, the great thing about Myrtle, so many people have fond memories of being here.
Oh, they do.
They take those with them back to Canada. They take them back to New York or Ohio. And they're always fond memories.
Right. And there is a lot of nostalgia for old Myrtle Beach with anyone who's visited here back then. And I see that in my speaking engagements when I talk. And it's a lot of fun to hear those stories because people want to tell me their stories about old Myrtle Beach.
I bet. Now, do people often offer you postcards that they have just to help augment your book? Of course, Myrtle Beach and Conway in vintage postcards, and then, of course, Georgetown and the Waccamaw Neck in vintage postcards. Right. And now to see Myrtle Beach and the Grand Strand and not have in vintage postcards on there. Still postcards are a component of everything you do.
Right, they certainly are. And people do share postcards with me, and I always appreciate that because I'm sure there are many more than I have ever seen out there in the market. But I tried to bring a different flavor to this book by incorporating photographs as well, historic images of the beach. So it has a little different look, and in that respect, it adds a new dimension to our information.
And to think we're so close to the launch, we're less than a week now, Susan. It'll be out next Wednesday, all over area bookstores. There's a lot of bookstores.
There are a lot of bookstores, and they're going to keep me busy, it sounds like.
I'm sure.
With book signings all up and down the Grand Strand.
Arcadia Publishing has done an amazing job highlighting some of the authors. We had the two authors from a recent book on the PD, or the Florence area in particular, Florence, Images of America. In about 6 months ago here in the studio, they came in, Jennifer and Brenda, I believe, came down from Florence for the morning, and it was so exciting hearing them talk about working with Arcadia. They do a crackerjack job.
They do. They're pros at what they do.
They've done a good job helping arrange some book signings for you. You got some coming up that viewers may want to come out to?
I certainly do, Greg, and I'll be happy to share those with you.
Yeah, if you want to look down, you've got so many. I'm sure you need to look down at a couple of those.
On the 15th, I'll be at the Living Room Used Books and Coffee Bar in Myrtle Beach from 2 to 4 p.m. On October the 16th, which is a Saturday, I'll be at Harbor Walk Books in Georgetown, and my program there will be from 11 to 1. That's during the Wooden Boat Show, so we're expecting a large crowd for that event. And then on Wednesday, October 20th, I'll be at Northside Pharmacy from 10 in the morning until noon, and looking forward to that. That's a new place for me to sign books.
Huge, a great location.
I think so, I really do. The following day, on October 21st, I'll be at Booksmith's in Conway from 11 to 2 with another book signing. And then on Friday from 2 to 4, I'll be at Barnes & Noble in Myrtle Beach. That's just my first week. And then the following week, I'll be doing the Movable Feast and Litchfield Books on Friday, October 29th. And then the next day, on Saturday, I will be at the 2 Walden bookstore locations on the Grand Strand, from 1 to 3 at Colonial Mall, and from 6 to 8 at Barefoot Landing. So my life is scheduled for the next few weeks.
To think today on Friday, October 8th, and over this close to the first of those, next Friday, a couple days after the books are out, so you get them in the stores, they're sitting on the shelves for a couple days before you arrive.
Right.
Is that always the case? Was that the way the last two books?
That's usually the way we do it, so we don't frustrate readers by promising a book signing and not having books ready.
Sure, bad weather, anything could happen. That's exactly right. It's vital to make sure they're actually in the stores. Yeah. What's that like at book signings? It must be really exciting, Susan.
It is
fun. Is
fun.
It weird? I mean,
Well, it's kind of, I feel like a celebrity for 15 minutes or something.
Or 2 hours, 2 hours at least.
Because people come in and they're so excited about the books, particularly now that they know about my books.
Know you.
And again, they want to tell me their stories. And I get priceless stories that I always jot them down and try to remember them. And just enjoy sharing with the readership the interest in the history, because I'm as interested in it as ever.
I know, I'm sure. What do you think prompted that early interest, Susan? Now, I know talking about collecting postcards early, but then following up in something like that with people that are just sharing their interest. What do you think spurred that interest in history? Was it a parent or a grandparent or a sister, or just love of studying that under the covers?
Well, I've always been interested in genealogical history and worked on my family history a great deal. But a number of years ago, in the early 90s, I started volunteering on a local archaeological dig.
I saw that.
And got really caught up in doing archaeology. I still do a little bit with that. But got interested in reading the history of our area, and that sort of gave me a background for going into doing the books with the images.
How exciting. What was an archaeological dig like? Of course, you know, folks hear about that. We think about being in Israel or somewhere overseas and really getting into stuff, and you see these amazing archaeologists from all over the world, but you're talking about something local, and I guess this happens all the time up and down the Black River, the Waccamaw River, so many of the rivers, so many amazing artifacts all over.
Oh, sure. Well, we had a lot of Indian occupation in our area.
Yeah.
And then once the rice culture developed, all these wonderful rice plantations that have a story to tell.
Right.
So most of my work has been on rice plantations, and it's dirty work, it's hard work, and but it's hands-on history, and it's a lot of fun to uncover history that had been lost over time.
So you don't wear anything like this out on the...
Oh, no.
No earrings.
Blue jeans, T-shirts, and boots.
Yeah.
And gloves.
Susan, how exciting. Now, have you gotten any of your family involved in this? Or?
A little bit. I dragged most of my children at one time or another to a dig, and they got a taste of it and said, "Thanks, Mom," and that's not my thing, and moved on. But at least they have an understanding of what I do.
I'd always wanted to be an archaeologist kid. I'm not sure what prompted that. That's why I was wondering where the history came from. I just loved spelling archaeologist. Thought I was cool with an AEO there in the middle early on. Thought it was fun to have a word under my belt with 3 vowels in the middle. How did you come up with the idea for this third book? Of course, pulling away a little bit from postcards only or postcards almost entirely to something that has a mixture of the two.
Well, I had a number of early historic photographs of the area, and I wasn't able to use them in my first book, and also had continued to collect vintage postcards. And so there was a lot of material still to be told about Myrtle Beach that I just felt like another book was merited. And the first book was very successful, so I'm hoping that my readership will be interested in learning some more about the area.
Has stayed with you.
Right.
Susan, if there's a viewer who needs to run out to school right now or get out to work, what's going to be the best number for them if they couldn't write down all those dates to call. Is it the Arcadia Publishing number?
That would work. It certainly would, and I believe that the Sun News will be publishing news of the book signings as they come up.
Spectacular. Hopefully you'll get those to the Herald and other area papers,
all of the local
Orient
papers.
Independent and otherwise.
Right.
843-853-2070, extension 160 is a good one.
That's right.
Okay, that'll be a good one. Another place that a viewer could potentially visit if they go online to SusanHofferMcMillan.com.
Right.
I think we can get that spelled out. I think we can get that out. SusanHofferMcMillan.com or ArcadiaPublishing.com, another great one. Of course, they probably highlight all their authors all over America.
Sure, they do.
Yeah.
What's different about this book is because my first Myrtle Beach book was a bestseller in the South for my publisher.
Wow.
They have decided to focus their media efforts on this book, the
Really?
new Myrtle Beach book. And so they are helping me a great deal with promotions, and I think they're going to keep me busy too.
Yeah.
But it'll help book sales, and it'll spread the word about the new book.
Now, does your hubby of 33 years ever go out with you on these book signings, or does he not like, the celebrity staff? I mean, is it kind of weird for him? My wife's a celebrity for a couple hours, or even for months, for years now.
He tells everyone he's my secretary.
Yeah.
And he does a great job of keeping messages for me and keeping me straight with different things, and it's a real help. But he's very proud of what I've done.
Oh, sure.
But I think he's had to go without more than one meal to pull all this off.
Yeah.
But he's been wonderful.
And, of course, we got about 9 minutes, Susan. You think so many aspects there. Do people ever call you at home with great stories? They want to share them with you, and your husband ends up sitting on the phone for 20 minutes with a story that this is intended for Susan, not for me.
It does.
But he gets into it as well.
It happens. It sure does. And he'll say, you need to call this person. They're
They got a great
real
story.
excited about talking to you, and so I do. But I get calls, interesting calls, from time to time from people who've read the book and want to pursue particular images.
Right.
And sometimes I do duplicate images for people.
Yeah.
So I have been able to help people
You
with
mean
various
from your postcards,
projects.
sure.
From my collection of historic images.
Or pictures. Of course, you've also got lots of pictures. What are some other examples of images you may have gotten together? Are there some like video reels, possibly? Is there any other types other than postcards or pictures?
Well, I have a set of slides from Hurricane Hazel.
Oh, 50.
My father took them right after Hazel, and it's a wonderful collection, and I will be showing it at the October meeting of the Horry County Historical Society.
Right.
And a few of those images are in the new Myrtle Beach book, and some of them will be a part of the Hurricane Hazel exhibit coming up at the Art Museum here in Myrtle Beach.
Birds and Shaven Art Museum down on the end of Ocean Boulevard. Great. So viewers from Laurinburg or Lumberton or Hartsville could come down and see some of that. Obviously, they could come down for the book signings, and if they called Arcadia Publishing or went to visit your website, SusanHofferMcMillan.com, again, that'll have your book signing schedule there as well?
We plan to add that on. This is all very new, and so it has yet to be added on, but I think I'll do that.
Great. You got a little time. Hopefully folks can tune in there and catch that. So many amazing aspects. Book one was Myrtle Beach and Conway, or was it the Georgetown and the Waccamaw Neck first?
Myrtle Beach and Conway.
So that's why when you talk about the new Myrtle Beach, it sounds like we're like at a big new development or something. They used to talk about Broadway the Beach, the new Myrtle Beach, or the new center of fun or whatever. So Myrtle Beach and Conway, the original component, and now Myrtle Beach and the Grand Strand.
Exactly.
Wow.
And I tried to just give a little sample of all of the peripheral beaches to Myrtle Beach. But the book, of course, does focus on Myrtle Beach. But all of the little beaches have their histories, and they're very proud of them as well. So we tap in.
On a fascinating guest, the assistant city manager from the town of Atlantic Beach recently, which was magnificent, Sheila Singletary. And to hear her talk about the Black Pearl and some of the aspects there, so many memories of so many folks for so long in Atlantic Beach. I bet that would be a very exciting book on its own.
It would. It would be involve a lot of research because I don't find a lot of material on Atlantic Beach available.
And the stuff you've had, I'm sure you've tried to get in books in the past. probably continue to. It must be difficult, as you say, to get stuff.
Sure. The Internet has proven to be a good source.
Really?
Yes.
Huh. How does that work for a viewer who may not understand that component? How would the Internet help you on your research?
Well, there is a lot of material on Myrtle Beach on the Internet, but also I find a lot of historic images on eBay.
Really?
Probably shouldn't give out my trade secrets.
No, that's
but,
right. Yeah.
But eBay sells postcards from all over the world.
Aren't they must be one of the biggest postcard sellers in the world.
Oh, they probably are.
Not the largest,
Yeah.
How exciting, Susan. How long did this project take on the new Myrtle Beach, or Myrtle Beach and the Grand Strand, the new book that comes out next Wednesday?
I put this book together in 4 months, Greg.
Oh, come on. This whole thing?
Well, that was the longest effort I had. The other 2 books were faster, but because this was a revisitation of the same subject,
right,
I wanted to get in a little deeper and give some more details and kind of try to tell the rest of the story. So I tend to work night and day. When I do a book, it's a full-time, round-the-clock project.
That sounds like an archaeologist. Yeah, they don't sleep, do they?
I get a little obsessed, I will admit.
I'm sure your kids love that. Mom's in her zone.
Oh, that's exactly what they accuse me of.
In her zone. Of course, the exciting thing, it's so difficult to be in Myrtle Beach and not think about the unofficial historian, Jack Thompson, but so many of your pictures are pre-Jack Thompson.
They certainly
They really
are.
served the area prior to Jack's arrival and working at the little place down there near the pavilion, that little photo shop prior to him skipping down here from the upstate.
A few of the images are Jack's, and he was very kind to let me use them, and so I certainly appreciate that cooperation.
But a lot of stuff you own, though. You own
I do.
outright, and that means someone else could have taken the picture, but you own it. Do you still have to give, just for viewers who'd be interested, do you still have to give credit to the photographer?
I do in many cases. A number of the images in this book are Cecil Brandon's early postcard images.
Really, that he took,
And he took those and was gracious enough to give me permission to use them in the book.
Wow.
So I certainly appreciated Cecil's cooperation as well.
How exciting. So what new things did you learn about your subject from researching this second Myrtle Beach and the Grand Strand book?
I got into more of where the early hotels were along the beach, and also what replaced them, and sort of built the sequence of what changed over time in the various areas of the beach, and that was really fascinating. Maybe a lot of the readers won't find that interesting, but I touched on it in the book, and it is fun to imagine how the beach must have looked, and with all of my research, I felt like I kind of had a picture of it, as well as I could without having been there in the early days of Myrtle Beach.
How exciting. But it must be, since there's so many fans, and since #1 was such a big bestseller in the South or the Southeast, how do you know, I mean, how do you figure out what a reader's going to enjoy, Susan? I guess you really don't know until it's put together, but are there ways to kind of guide you based off of books #1 and 2 to make sure that #3 is even a bigger home run for you in Arcadia?
Well, certainly I've gotten feedback from the first 2 books, and one of the questions is, do you have the hotel I stayed in? And so there is a whole chapter on early beach hotels. And people have fond memories of favorite restaurants and shops downtown that they liked to frequent when they came on beach vacations. So those are some of the things I kind of tried to focus on. Certainly, Myrtle Beach Farms, it plays a big role in the book.
Sure.
Now, Burroughs and Chapin Company, because they were the early developers of the area. So a lot of the history in here is the early history as that company developed Myrtle Beach.
Susan, we got 1 minute left, and that makes me think, you know, it must be difficult in an entire book to imagine one photo that you think every reader needs to see when they pick up my book. Is there one photo in here
that would be the cover photo, Greg, and I put it on the cover because it depicts 53 people at the beach in 1951, a group at Camp Nixon, and I'm hoping some of my readers can identify some of those folks for me.
That'd be exciting. So you're looking for some identifiers. That's a great way to get folks really into the mix at book signings and otherwise.
I would think so, and I'm sure that there are grandparents and parents that some of the generation today will recognize in this photo.
We're very excited to have you in this morning, Susan. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you, Greg.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Susan Hoffer McMillan coming up next. Phone number simple, 843-853-2070, extension 160, 843-853-2070, extension 160. You can learn about all the upcoming book signings. You can learn where you can find the book. Virtually every bookstore, if not every bookstore in the area. Obviously, a lot of you all in the PD in southeastern North Carolina, you may not be able to find it, but you can call that phone number. Of course, there's a great website to visit. Real easy to remember, SusanHofferMcMillan.com. The book is Myrtle Beach and the Grand Strand. It's the third. Three's a charm. Three's a charm. It's a great opportunity to get out there and experience early Myrtle Beach. Way back when, you think about a postcard from 1901, 1902. Think about that experience, to be able to pick up a book and to see just that. But you heard her say it. She wants some interpretation on so many of the folks pictured on the front of the book. Get out to one of the book signings. The first one's next Friday at the Living Room Used Books and Coffee Shop there on 38th Avenue in Myrtle Beach, or even on Saturday down at Harbor Walk Books in Georgetown during the Wooden Boat Show. Susan Hoffer McMillan, thanks for being with us.